Meet Wu Lingen, an otaku whose life has been a long, unfortunate series of getting pushed around. He poured all his energy into studying, convinced that academic success was his only escape route. His grand fantasy involved a life of luxury, where his skills would finally earn him the respect he craved. But the harsh truth was that his grades were just as disappointing as his social standing. After dropping out, his only marketable asset was his large, resilient frame. He stumbled upon a job posting for a sparring partner, where no diploma was required. It felt as though he was right back where he started. His new career was painfully similar to his school days, only this time with boxing gloves. Beaten and broken, he cries out in despair, questioning his cruel fate. Just as he hits rock bottom, a mysterious hand rests on his shoulder, interrupting his misery. The hand belongs to his supervisor, Mei Rengsing, who's here to add insult to injury by dumping his reports on him. Wu Lingen meekly protests, questioning why a sparring partner is being treated like an office assistant. Instead of an answer, the supervisor responds with an intimidating display of his physique. He leans in with a menacing glare, making it clear that refusal is not an option. Terrified, Wu Lingen forces a strained smile and quickly agrees to handle the paperwork. Just as he thinks the ordeal is over, another voice calls out his name. He turns around, his expression shifting from fear to weary confusion. A horde of shadowy colleagues descends upon him, each with their own work to pass off. A shadow of pure rage crosses Wu Lingen's face as he's pushed to his absolute limit. Yet his anger is instantly masked by a disturbingly cheerful grin as he agrees to everyone's demands. He toils away at his desk, buried in paperwork long after the sun has set. Tears of regret stream down his face as he laments his inability to say no to unpaid overtime. Suddenly, a sharp, agonizing pain seizes his chest as his heart pounds erratically. He flashes back to a doctor's grim warning. His lifestyle could have fatal consequences. Convinced this is the end, he desperately scrambles to call for an ambulance. But fate delivers another cruel blow. His phone service has been suspended for non-payment. Utterly defeated, he slumps over, resigning himself to his tragic fate. Yet, in his final moments, a surge of defiance ignites his eyes with a fiery red glow. Having made a final, life-changing resolution, a serene smile spreads across his face as he finds peace. His last thought is a solemn vow for his next life, a promise to be someone new. But even in death, his hand remains frozen on the mouse, a final, automated gesture of his miserable life. With his last ounce of strength, he executes a petty, posthumous act of revenge. A single notification pings across every computer in the silent, empty office. His supervisor arrives the next morning, surprised to see an email from his late, overworked subordinate. Assuming it's the finished report, he eagerly clicks open the folder labeled Study Materials. The screen immediately displays highly inappropriate content, sending the entire office into a state of pandemonium. Elsewhere, a pair of wide, startled eyes blink open, filled with dawning awareness. He realizes his dying wish came true. He's been reborn, but as a baby with tiny horns. The world fast-forwards 20,000 years, settling on a breathtaking, mystical continent. Now a handsome young man, Wu Lingen finds his new life is already a massive improvement. A beautiful fox demon named Tushan Xiaoyu reminds him of their promise to explore the world together. He casually explains he's been training for 20,000 years while demonstrating his immense strength. Wu Lingen holds an entire mountain aloft, yet humbly insists he's just an ordinary person. Xiaoyu is completely stunned, her mind unable to process his impossible display of power. His casual explanation does little to calm her as she stares in utter disbelief. He confirms his reincarnation by casually tossing the mountain away, startling his companion. After 10,000 years of training, he has fully accepted the reality of his new life. He reveals he was reborn as the young master of the demonic sect, a dangerous position to be in. Wu Lingen explains that he must hide, as his weakened sect can no longer protect him from his enemies. With his training complete for the day, he gently pats her head and decides it's time to return. He reflects that Xiaoyu's companionship was the only thing that kept him from going mad during his long isolation. Haunted by his past life, he spent 20,000 years forging his body through relentless, brutal training. As they walk, he explains that after all that time, he finally understood the true nature of his new world. Their journey is suddenly interrupted by a colossal, monstrous serpent, proving his theory correct. He grimly accepts that his name, meaning no spiritual roots, is a constant reminder of his magical ineptitude. The giant beast lunges with terrifying speed, its fangs bared and ready to strike. With a look of pure determination, Wu Lingen clenches his fist, ready to rely on his physical power alone. He leaps into the air, meeting the serpent's attack with a powerful, direct punch. He understands that his incredible physique is the only asset he possesses in this magical world. The sheer force of his blow stops the massive creature cold, sending a shockwave through its body. The punch sends the colossal serpent flying, carving a destructive trench through the landscape. Even Wu Lingen seems momentarily stunned by the sheer devastation his simple attack caused. He quickly recovers, cheerfully deciding that the defeated monster will make an excellent dinner. Xiaoyu swoons with adoration, completely captivated by her companion's overwhelming power. Their victory celebration is cut short by an angry shout accusing them of being bold thieves. A cultivator on a flying sword descends, claiming they stole the flood dragon he had already wounded. The man, an academy instructor, furiously denounces them as shameless remnants of the demonic sect. Wu Lingen listens to the tirade with a completely unimpressed and weary expression. His tough facade instantly shatters as he panics, desperately denying everything while wondering how he was exposed. In a complete reversal, he prostrates himself on the ground, offering a frantic and over-the-top apology. The instructor scoffs, dismissing them as a mere fox demon and a magicless mortal. He decides words are futile and prepares to deliver a swift, violent lesson. The cultivator launches himself forward, unleashing a powerful sword technique meant to end the fight. But his attack is casually intercepted as Wu Lingen plucks the flying sword right out of the air. The instructor lands clumsily, his grand entrance ruined as he points in shock at his disarmed state. His mind reels in disbelief, unable to process how his ultimate move was so easily neutralized. Still bowing, Wu Lingen apologizes for catching the sword, explaining he was simply trying not to die. The cultivator refuses to accept this reality, certain that a powerless mortal could never stop his attack. Convinced of a trick, he turns his wrath on Xiaoyu, accusing her of being the hidden mastermind. He points a trembling finger at the fox demon, but his accusations trail off into stunned silence. Enraged, the instructor unleashes a more powerful two-sword technique, determined to end them both. But his attack ends just as pathetically, with Wu Lingen casually catching the swords like a bouquet of flowers. The instructor lands in a heap, pointing in stunned silence at the man who now holds all three of his blades. His mind reels in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend how his signature moves failed yet again. Wu Lingen bows once more, pleading for his companion's safety and making Xiaoyu's heart flutter. Refusing to accept defeat, the cultivator summons a storm of countless blades, aiming to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Wu Lingen calmly faces the deadly barrage of swords hurtling towards him and his friend. In a flash of impossible speed, he moves like a phantom, intercepting every single blade with his bare hands. He stands decorated with the captured swords, sheepishly apologizing as Xiaoyu looks on with pure adoration. The instructor can only stare, his body frozen and his spirit completely crushed by this display of absolute absurdity. The defeated instructor scrambles away as Wu Lingen casually holds a sword between his teeth. His arrogance instantly replaced with fawning respect, the cultivator addresses Wu Lingen as a senior. He begs for the return of his swords, promising to leave immediately and end the misunderstanding. In a desperate act, the instructor strikes his own face to create a diversion for his escape. The self-inflicted blow erupts into a massive fiery explosion, propelling him away from the scene. He flees at blinding speed, leaving a scorched trench through the forest in his wake. True to his past self, Wu Lingen simply agrees, unable to refuse even his enemy's request. From a safe distance, the instructor's face is a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. The memory of Wu Lingen's power leaves him trembling, his spirit completely and utterly broken. Unfazed by the encounter, Wu Lingen turns to Xiaoyu, ready to drag their massive prize home for dinner. On the way home, Xiaoyu attempts to discuss the recent absurd encounter. Her expression suddenly darkens with rage as she forbids him from ever speaking of it again. Instantly reverting to his old habits, he sweats profusely and eagerly agrees. Her mood instantly flips back to adoration as she happily rushes to join Wu Lingen. The defeated instructor watches them disappear into the forest, still sweating from the encounter. Finally alone, he collapses in a state of shock, questioning the identity of the monstrously powerful pair. His shock turns to a sinister grin as he resolves to make them pay for their actions. Xiaoyu reflects on his power, unable to reconcile his claim of being ordinary with defeating a nascent soul cultivator. He remains oblivious, believing the cultivator was just joking, while Xiaoyu recalls the man's genuine killing intent. He concludes that his lack of spiritual power is precisely why he must rely on and relentlessly hone his physical strength. Xiaoyu gently chides him for continuing his strength training even as they walk home. Despite his cluelessness, she finds his innocent nature utterly charming and endearing. Their journey takes them through majestic, mist-covered mountain peaks toward their hidden home. They finally arrive at a cave entrance, with Wu Lingen carrying giant prepared cuts of snake meat. A weathered sign warns trespassers of a demonic presence, promising an unforgivable fate. Inside the ominous cave, a fiery glow emanates from a mysterious, cracked bowl. A fearsome, horned figure and his demonic followers emerge, threatening death to any intruders. Unfazed by the hostile reception, Wu Lingen cheerfully announces he's brought dinner. The demon's fury instantly melts into joy as they recognize their beloved young master. The sect members are revealed to be trapped behind a gate, desperately begging for the food he's brought. He explains that despite their fearsome looks, these demons are the uncles who have cared for him. The sect leader, however, glares with clear disapproval. This is Wu Di, his father, who angrily questions his son's loyalty after a mere 3-hour absence. Wu Lingyan tries to explain the delay, but his father pouts from behind the gate, accusing him of making excuses. His father's suspicion immediately falls on Xiaoyu, accusing her of trying to lure his son away from the mountain. He furiously forbids any thought of leaving their sanctuary, his face a mask of pure rage. The sheer intensity of his father's reaction leaves both Wu Lingyan and Xiaoyu stunned and nervous. He recalls the cunning of the righteous sects, a painful memory that has festered for 20,000 years. He explains his overprotective rage, fearing his inexperienced son would be sending himself to an early grave. Wu Lingyan meekly accepts the scolding, but a flicker of defiance remains in his downcast eyes. Wu Lingyan finally snaps, declaring he's heard the same lectures for 20,000 years. His father is completely stunned by this sudden and unprecedented defiance. He proclaims he'd rather face any danger outside than remain trapped in the forest. The other sect members panic, insisting that leaving at his current level is a death sentence. Xiaoyu calmly interjects, ready to set the record straight about their little trip. She proudly reveals he defeated a nascent soul cultivator, much to his awkward attempts to downplay it. The sect leader is lost in thought, trying to reconcile his son's lack of magic with this impossible feat. He quickly dismisses the achievement, reminding his son he's still just a mortal without spiritual power. Xiaoyu echoes this worry, questioning how he will handle even more powerful cultivators in the future. Clenching his fist, his father warns him not to let 1 or 2 victories make him think he's invincible. He furiously rejects the notion of being invincible, his eyes burning with a different purpose. He reveals his true quest is to break the seal trapping his family, a feat impossible from within the forest. The sect leader immediately accuses the other demons, who nervously deny telling his son the secret. Wu Lingyan fondly remembers his father's unwavering care and protection over the last 20,000 years. Filled with new resolve, he declares that it is now his turn to protect his father. Xiaoyu cheerfully interrupts the tense moment, reminding them of a crucial detail they've all forgotten. She points out that his lack of demonic aura makes him the perfect undetectable agent in the outside world. But his father counters that any power breakthrough would instantly expose him, leading to certain death. Unswayed, Wu Lingyan turns his back, asking his father not to blame him for the choice he's about to make. As his son walks away, the sect leader's anger melts into a look of quiet, resigned pride. Just as he's about to leave, his father's voice commands him to halt. A small glowing token is tossed through the air, landing at Wu Lingyan's feet. He and Xiaoyu stare at the object, their expressions a mix of confusion and surprise. Wu Lingyan examines the token, which bears his name, wondering about its purpose. His father reveals it's a qualification token for the Xuantian Academy entrance exam. Wu Lingyan recalls that Xuantian Academy is the most prestigious institution for righteous cultivators. The entire sect looks on with envy, knowing its graduates are guaranteed to become powerful cultivators. Xiaoyu voices her concern, but his father counters that the enemy's stronghold is the last place they'd expect to find him. Realizing the academy offers countless cultivation paths, Wu Lingyan sees a chance to find one that fits his unique situation. With his new mission set, he begins packing his belongings, preparing for the long journey ahead. He bids farewell, carrying an absurdly oversized pack for his journey to Xuantian Academy. Xiaoyu questions his father on how an imprisoned demon acquired such a rare token, but he remains evasively silent. The sect leader grimly admits to himself that he can no longer keep his son safe within their prison. Meanwhile, Wu Lingyan consults a crude map, believing this path is his best chance for survival. His father reveals to Xiaoyu that there is a profound secret hidden within Wu Lingyan's unique body. He officially entrusts his son's safety to her, acknowledging her immense power as a quasi-emperor level 9-tailed fox. Xiaoyu accepts the heavy responsibility, understanding the stakes of their mission, but she quickly raises a critical point about their departure that everyone has overlooked. The entire sect freezes, a look of dawning horror on their faces as they realize who will now provide their food. Panic erupts as the sect leader screams at the others to eat, realizing their personal chef is about to leave for good. Xiaoyu bids a final, slightly smug farewell to the sect leader, ready to depart. His father desperately calls out, but Xiaoyu impatiently refuses any last-minute requests for food. The sect leader's tone shifts, delivering a grave warning about the world's impending doom. He stresses the urgency of awakening Wu Lingyan's hidden power before it's too late. The scene shifts to the grand entrance of the prestigious Xuantian Academy. A long line of aspiring cultivators is being strictly managed by an academy instructor. The nervous examinees are instructed to have their qualification tokens ready for inspection. Wu Lingyan, sweating under his comically large pack, desperately tries to blend in with the crowd. The instructor explains the first step of the exam, feeding their tokens to a stone lion statue. He reveals the statue is a magical security check, designed to expose fakes and unmask demonic spies. The instructor impatiently singles out a nervous-looking candidate to be the first to test his token. The young man hesitantly places his glowing qualification token into the stone lion's mouth. A bright light emanates from the statue's chest, confirming the token's authenticity. With a dismissive thumbs up, the instructor grants him entry, and the relieved candidate quickly passes. The instructor barks out an order for the next person in line to step forward. Hidden under his cloak, Wu Lingyan breaks into a cold sweat, terrified his demonic heritage will be exposed. His panic is interrupted by a sudden, terrified scream from the front of the line. The stone lion's eyes glow an ominous red as it clamps down on the hand of a revealed demonic spy. Another candidate explains that the statue is designed to bite down and trap any detected anomaly, much to Wu Lingyan's horror. The captured demon begs for mercy, but the instructor coldly orders the guards to lock him away without a second thought. The instructor's finger lands on Wu Lingyan, who is stunned to be singled out next. His oversized backpack makes him the prime suspect, and he's ordered to present his token immediately. With his heart pounding, he desperately prays that his demonic token won't betray him. Suddenly, the ground trembles violently, startling the other candidates in line. Wu Lingyan nervously places his qualification token into the stone lion's gaping maw. A blue light confirms the token's authenticity, and for a moment it seems he's passed the test. He lets out a massive sigh of relief, believing he's narrowly avoided exposure. But his relief is short-lived as the statue's eyes flare with a menacing red glow. The magical artifact has detected something far more unusual than a simple demonic spy. Instead of granting entry, the lion spits out a strange, cracked orb, leaving Wu Lingyan utterly bewildered. The stone lion's eyes blaze with a malevolent red light as it prepares to strike. Wu Lingyan flinches as the magical beast lunges, its stone jaws aiming to bite down on him. With a single reflexive touch, he accidentally shatters the ancient stone guardian into a pile of rubble. The instructor stares in stunned silence, his jaw agape at the impossible display of destructive power. Wu Lingyan immediately drops to his knees, nervously apologizing and offering to fix the priceless artifact. Snapping out of his stupor, the instructor furiously accuses him of being a demonic spy and orders his immediate arrest. Guards quickly surround him with spears as he frantically protests, insisting his qualification token was legitimate. The instructor counters that the lion only attacks demonic energy, demanding to know what he's hiding. In a panic, Wu Lingyan blames his predicament on second-hand demonic aura from his family, a flimsy but desperate excuse. The tense standoff is suddenly broken by a commanding voice as Xiao Yu arrives to intervene. She confidently challenges the instructor's hasty judgment as the other candidates stare in awe. The instructor furiously demands to know why a monster clan member is meddling in the academy's affairs. She protectively grabs Wu Lingyan's arm, pulling him close to her side. With a smug grin, she declares herself his official guardian, leaving him completely flustered. The other candidates murmur in surprise, realizing a guardian implies he has a powerful background. She then challenges the instructor to examine the token's origins more closely. The instructor recognizes the insignia, identifying it as belonging to the legendary #1 sect in the world. Xiao Yu reveals this sect was destroyed 20,000 years ago, and Wu Lingyan is its only living successor. A knowledgeable candidate in the crowd smugly asks if anyone knows the real story behind the sect. He reveals the sect's only claim to fame was its absurdly literal name, deflating all the tension. Xiao Yu argues that the token's demonic taint is simply a remnant of its long, complicated history. The instructor considers the political delicacy of the situation, realizing he can't act rashly. He begrudgingly lets them pass with a stern warning, which Wu Lingyan nervously accepts. They finally step through the gates and onto the grounds of the prestigious academy. Xiao Yu cheerfully tells the still panicked Wu Lingyan to stop being so tense. She advises him to just act naturally, a concept that leaves him utterly bewildered. Their journey brings them deeper into the sprawling, impressive campus of Xuantian Academy. The new recruits gather in a courtyard, watched by a figure from a high tower. The stern instructor, Mei Yanli, crosses his arms, silently observing the new arrivals. A flamboyant master named Huang Luhong approaches, inquiring about this year's batch of students. From his high perch, Huang Luhong observes that this year's recruits show some potential. He notes the arrival of prominent figures, including Baidi of Yujin Peak and the young master of the Hehuan sect. The Hehuan sect's master immediately approaches Baidi with a flirtatious and suggestive proposition. She shuts him down instantly with a cold, withering glare and a sharp dismissal. The crowd murmurs in awe, identifying her as the prodigious daughter of Yujin Peak's master. Unimpressed by her peers, she silently concludes that none of the newcomers are worth her attention. Back in the tower, Mei Yanli agrees the batch is good, but trails off, sensing something amiss. His unease is explained as he spots Wu Lingyan casually lifting 2 massive stone hammers to act normal. Huang Luhong scoffs, assuming the show-off is just a new qi-refining cultivator trying to look tough. Mei Yanli smirks, predicting that such a flashy character is doomed to fail the very first test. With a powerful step, Mei Yanli begins his dramatic entrance. He leaps effortlessly into the air, a blur of motion showcasing his cultivation prowess. Landing gracefully atop the academy gate, he commands the attention of the awestruck recruits. He introduces himself as the instructor for the assessment and announces the start of their entrance test. Wu Lingyan listens intently, realizing his future at the academy depends on passing these trials. A jolt of recognition hits him as he finds the instructor's face strangely familiar. Mei Yanli immediately singles out the staring Wu Lingyan, angrily calling him out in front of everyone. Caught completely off guard, Wu Lingyan is left flustered and speechless by the accusation. He then points out that a single, reflective thread on the instructor's clothes was the source of his distraction. The instructor is left floating in stunned, awkward silence as the entire crowd stares up at him. The instructor is left dangling awkwardly from his rope, his grand entrance completely ruined. He quickly recovers, putting on a friendly facade and offering Wu Lingyan some unsettling encouragement. But the illusion shatters as he's once again seen hanging helplessly, unable to control his own technique. His partner, Huang Luhong, furiously berates him for failing to stop his levitation spell at the right moment. The stoic Bai Di watches the chaos with disdain, questioning both the instructor's power and Wu Lingyan's nerve. Huang Luhong realizes the new recruit has made a powerful and petty enemy on his very first day. To regain his dignity, Mei Yanli dramatically tears off his robes, revealing his powerful physique. He calmly claims the embarrassing display was just a joke before announcing the start of the first test. Wu Lingyan is left utterly confused by the instructor's bizarre and unnecessary display of machismo. Other recruits, however, stare in awe, recognizing the terrifying aura of a truly powerful cultivator. A knowledgeable recruit recognizes the instructor's physique as the legendary sandbag sacred body. He explains that this body type absorbs the energy from attacks, turning enemy power into its own strength. This ability makes the instructor virtually immune to attacks from cultivators at his own level. Wu Lingyan is horrified, imagining a bizarre training regimen and wondering if this path is only for masochists. The instructor announces the first test, ordering each recruit to strike him so he can gauge their potential. He then delivers a private, menacing threat to Wu Lingyan, promising to fail him regardless of his talent. To make an example of him, the instructor singles out Wu Lingyan to be the very first to take the test. Wu Lingyan steps forward, calmly warning the instructor to brace himself for a powerful blow. The instructor scoffs with absolute confidence, boasting that even a nascent soul cultivator couldn't possibly harm him. But his arrogant taunt is cut short as Wu Lingyan's fist connects with his neck in a blur of motion. The punch lands with devastating force, distorting the instructor's face in a grotesque display of impact. Mei Yanli is sent flying like a cannonball, smashing through the academy gate in a fiery explosion. The other recruits can only stare in wide-eyed horror, their minds unable to process what they just witnessed. From his perch, Huang Luhong breaks into a cold sweat, his flamboyant confidence completely shattered. Wu Lingyan stands in the newly carved canyon of destruction, calmly observing the aftermath of his single punch. His calm demeanor vanishes as he realizes he may have just ended his academy career before it even began. In the distance, the once mighty instructor sits dazed amidst the smoldering ruins of the gate. Mei Yanli is left completely unconscious, his legendary sandbag sacred body utterly defeated. Wu Lingyan cheerfully turns to the stunned crowd, innocently asking if this means he passed the assessment. The other recruits shrink back in pure terror, leaving him confused by their fearful reaction. In her fox form, Xiaoyu gracefully leaps across the academy rooftops to get a better view. She watches from a rooftop, smugly observing how Wu Lingyan has captured everyone's attention. The recruits murmur in disbelief, their knowledge of cultivation completely failing to explain the scene. Even the stoic Bai Di is forced to reconsider, realizing she's not the only one hiding their true strength. Huang Luhong cautiously approaches his dazed colleague, who is sitting amidst the ruins of the gate. The flamboyant master reveals the punch was equivalent to a late nascent soul attack, much to Wu Lingyan's private amusement. Suddenly, the defeated instructor's eyes fly open as he jolts back to consciousness. He springs to his feet, his body trembling with pure, unadulterated fury. The humiliated instructor charges forward, his pride clearly wounded by the public defeat. He furiously berates Wu Lingyan for the sucker punch, while the boy can only offer a frantic apology. The crowd quickly rationalizes the defeat, concluding the instructor was simply caught off guard. Refusing to accept his loss, the instructor nullifies the first test and threatens to disqualify Wu Lingyan for any more tricks. To save face, he unleashes his full power, activating the legendary immovable sandbag technique. A knowledgeable recruit explains this ultimate defense converts all of a user's power into an unbreakable shield. The instructor confidently boasts that even a Tribulation Transcendence cultivator couldn't budge him now. Unfazed, Wu Lingen delivers another punch, this time directly to the instructor's chest. The blow sinks deep into his flesh, leaving a perfect fist-shaped crater in his supposedly invincible body. The other recruits erupt in cheers, amazed that the instructor stood his ground without moving a single step. But his flamboyant colleague stares in disbelief, realizing the crowd has completely misread the situation. A closer look reveals the truth. The instructor fainted on his feet from the sheer force of the blow. To save face, the flamboyant master quickly declares the instructor is unwell and that everyone has passed the first round. The recruits celebrate their unexpected pass, their gazes fixed on Wu Lingen with a mix of awe and curiosity. A smug, silver-haired cultivator approaches, acknowledging Wu Lingen as a worthy rival and demanding his name. He introduces himself as Zhang Ma of the Heiwan sect, listing his credentials and a rather suggestive hobby. Zhang Ma forcefully befriends Wu Lingen, who panics at the thought of becoming his new cultivation partner. Their awkward bonding is interrupted by another group of recruits hoping to join their powerful new faction. A young monk named Tianji offers his services as an information broker in exchange for their protection. He admits his network has a massive blind spot, presenting a blank report on the completely unknown Wu Lingen. Tianji's overly eager expression makes Wu Lingen slightly wary of his new, self-proclaimed follower. The young informant presses for details, asking about Wu Lingen's mysterious origins and sect affiliation. Cornered, Wu Lingen sweats profusely, nervously claiming to be a simple rogue cultivator. His display attracts the attention of Bai Di, the beautiful prodigy from Yujin Peak, who looks on with clear annoyance. She confronts him directly, vowing to expose the gap between his brute strength and her true genius. With a final glare, she turns her back, leaving Wu Lingen to deal with his newfound unwanted fame. Nearby, a mysterious hooded figure watches silently, earning an admiring glance from the informant monk. Their celebration is cut short as the flamboyant master announces the real test is about to begin. With a dramatic flourish, he presses a large red button, activating the next stage of the assessment. The ground beneath the recruit suddenly shifts, transforming into a treacherous, unstable grid. Panic spreads through the crowd as they struggle to keep their balance, questioning the sudden tremor. A massive, featureless cube erupts from the ground, sealing them all inside a mysterious new arena. Menacing mechanical beasts with glowing red eyes emerge from the walls of the arena. An army of armored puppets activates, standing in perfect, intimidating formation. The towering mechanical guardians loom over the terrified recruits, trapping them in the square. From above, the students are shown to be completely encircled by the imposing puppet army. The flamboyant master reappears, introducing himself as Huang Luhong, the examiner for the second test. He proudly claims credit for the mechanical monstrosities, much to the recruits' unease. The master reveals the puppets will relentlessly fire hidden projectiles at them for the duration of the test. He lights an incense stick next to his fallen colleague, explaining the test is a timed endurance trial. A chilling warning is issued to the recruits, clarifying that this is no mere simulation. He emphasizes the danger by revealing the puppets are armed with lethal, non-magical weapons. The puppet army unleashes a deadly barrage of energy beams, welcoming the recruits to their trial. While others flee in terror from the explosions, Wu Lingen stands his ground, completely unfazed. The mechanical soldiers relentlessly fire their projectiles, filling the arena with lethal light. Weaker candidates are quickly overwhelmed and eliminated, sent flying by the force of the blasts. From the sidelines, Huang Luhong notes that the Heihuan sect's master is holding his own against the onslaught. Zhang Ma skillfully deflects the incoming beams, using a powerful defensive technique. He smirks with absolute confidence, boasting that his signature move makes him immune to attacks from behind. His arrogance is short-lived as a beam strikes him directly in the chest, leaving him utterly stunned. The flamboyant master quickly covers his face, trying to retract his earlier praise in embarrassment. His expression turns serious, however, as his attention is drawn to something else in the arena. His attention is drawn to Bai Di, who moves like a phantom, her swordsmanship proving surprisingly effective. But even her stoic composure breaks as she stares at something in the arena with utter disbelief. She sees Wu Lingen casually smashing the leg of a giant mechanical puppet with a rock. He logically concludes that if he destroys the puppets, they can no longer attack him. The flamboyant master erupts in fury, screaming that he has completely misunderstood the objective of the test. He threatens to disqualify Wu Lingen, who simply apologizes for not being clear on the rules. Annoyed by his showboating, Bai Di prepares to drag him out of the arena herself. Suddenly, a hand snatches the puppet controller right out of the instructor's grasp. The revived Mei Yanli takes the remote, deciding there's no need to waste any more words on the boy. With a sinister grin, he prepares to teach Wu Lingyan a lesson using the full power of the puppets. The puppets begin to reconfigure, their mechanical parts shifting and locking into place. In a flash of light, the individual machines start combining, linking together to form a much larger entity. The separate puppets merge into a single colossal golem, leaving Wu Lingyan to stare up at the impossible transformation. The informant monk panics, realizing this fusion creates a monster with power far beyond the Golden Core stage. A nearby recruit marvels at the monk's knowledge, but Tianji's face is pale with fear for another reason. He reveals his expertise comes from personal experience, as he's already been struck by several of the poisoned projectiles. The flamboyant master furiously confronts his colleague, warning him that this level of danger is a death sentence. But the vengeful instructor smirks, making it clear he's willing to do anything to ensure Wu Lingyan fails. The colossal puppet unleashes its full arsenal, firing a concentrated storm of deadly projectiles. Yet Wu Lingyan moves like a blur, weaving through the lethal barrage with impossible speed and grace. His attention is caught by the terrified screams of the other recruits. He realizes with a sweat drop that his actions have made everyone else a target. The vengeful instructor smirks, deciding to escalate the assault even further. A new squadron of mechanical puppets suddenly surrounds Wu Lingyan, cutting off his escape. He braces himself, preparing for a multi-directional attack from the towering machines. The instructors issue a final, furious warning against damaging any more of their precious puppets. The other recruits breathe a sigh of relief as the informant monk grimly accepts his new leader's fate. Baidi watches with cold satisfaction, believing his arrogance has finally caught up with him. The puppets unleash a flurry of coordinated strikes, their mechanical limbs blurring with speed. With a look of grim resolve, Wu Lingyan decides there's only one way out of this situation. He stomps on the air itself, using sheer force to propel himself upwards. Landing with explosive force, he shatters the arms of another mechanical puppet. The instructors stare in disbelief, lamenting their broken puppet while questioning how he can fly. The other recruits wonder about his cultivation level, knowing flight is a skill for Golden Core masters. But the injured informant monk, riddled with projectiles, realizes the impossible truth behind the display. He reveals Wu Lingyan isn't flying with magic, but simply jumping with unbelievable leg strength. The monk explains he's using the downward force of his stomps to defy gravity, leaving everyone speechless. The vengeful instructor smirks, confident that even this physical marvel has a limit and must eventually come down. He orders the puppets to fire a volley of projectiles, creating a deadly trap at Wu Lingyan's landing zone. Caught in a bind, Wu Lingyan realizes he can't destroy the puppets, but will fail if he's hit, forcing him to find a new plan. A brilliant idea strikes Wu Lingyan as he spots Baidi standing amidst the chaos below. He deftly uses the tips of the incoming projectiles as a makeshift staircase. With another impossible leap, he lands directly in front of the stoic swordswoman. He drops to one knee before her, leaving Baidi to question his sudden, dramatic gesture. Wu Lingyan looks up with a sly grin, prompting her to ask about his intentions. Her composure shatters into a flustered blush as she misinterprets his approach as a romantic advance. In a flash, he's hiding behind her as she instinctively draws her swords to deflect the projectiles. The boy peeks out from behind his new, unwilling guardian, using her as a human shield. She erupts in fury at his audacity, while he sheepishly explains it was his only option. Enraged by his stunt, she sends him flying with a powerful swing of her sword. Enraged by his stunt, Baidi turns her blade on him, vowing to eliminate him from the test herself. Wu Lingyan panics, realizing he's now trapped between a furious swordswoman and a barrage of lethal projectiles. From the sidelines, his new follower marvels at his leader's impressive dodging skills under pressure. The vengeful instructor cackles with glee, enjoying the sight of his two most troublesome recruits clashing. While fleeing, Wu Lingyan glances at the instructors, a new plan beginning to form in his mind. His eyes light up with a brilliant idea as he focuses on the flamboyant master, Huang Luhong. He abruptly stops running and turns to face his pursuer, leaving Baidi to wonder if he has surrendered. Instead of fighting, he takes a massive, deep breath, drawing in a huge amount of air. The instructors watch in confusion, mocking his decision to take a breather in the middle of a deadly assault. He then unleashes the air in a powerful, swirling vortex, creating a massive gust of wind. The gale force wind he created sends the other recruits, including an embarrassed Baidi, stumbling. The instructors brace against the wind, with Mei Yanli dismissing the move as a mere bluff. As the wind subsides, the instructors are left with their hair standing on end, completely bewildered by the display. Wu Lingyan calmly interrupts the fuming instructor, politely pointing out a crucial detail. The instructor looks over in shock, realizing the incense stick marking the test's duration has already burned to ash. His colleague realizes the powerful gust of wind intentionally burned through the incense, ending the test early. The informant monk excitedly declares that his new leader had a brilliant, ulterior motive for his actions. He proclaims that Wu Lingen's clever trick was a selfless act to ensure everyone passed the test. Baidi clenches her teeth, her face burning with humiliation at being saved by his ridiculous stunt. She furiously storms off, leaving a bewildered Wu Lingen to wonder what he could have possibly done wrong. The battered recruits stare in a daze, still reeling from the chaotic test. A new, powerful figure appears, remarking that he hasn't seen such an interesting freshman in years. The man reveals himself as Yu Tianxing, the legendary dean of Xuantian Academy, stunning the entire crowd. The recruits whisper amongst themselves, unimpressed by the dean's slightly crooked wig. But the informant monk furiously defends him, revealing the dean is the infamous Red Flame Shura. He recounts the legend of how the dean's hair was dyed red from slaying countless demons 20,000 years ago. The other recruits listen to the impressive tale, but one of them notices a glaring inconsistency. He points out the obvious flaw in the story. The legendary red hair is just a cheap wig. The dean ignores the murmurs and singles out Wu Lingen, demanding to know his name. From a nearby rooftop, Xiaoyu yawns, completely unbothered by the dramatic proceedings below. Xiaoyu panics from her perch, realizing Wu Lingen has already offended the powerful headmaster. She sends a telepathic warning, startling Wu Lingen, who is standing before the academy's leader. She points out his wind blast dislodged the headmaster's wig and urges him to fix it immediately. Wu Lingen awkwardly approaches the fuming headmaster, trying to smooth things over with an apology. The headmaster scoffs, dismissing the apology and blaming the entire incident on the boy's lack of skill. As he lectures, his cheap, fiery red wig finally begins to slip from his bald head. At Xiaoyu's telepathic command, Wu Lingen leaps forward with impossible speed.
He deftly catches the falling hairpiece and places it back on the headmaster's head in a single fluid motion.
The headmaster is left stunned by the boy's blinding speed, admitting he barely even saw him move. Wu Lingen cheekily explains he was just returning dropped property, telling the headmaster not to be so grateful. But his attempt to help only makes things worse as he's placed the wig on backwards. Wu Lingen then notices the projectiles that were also caught in the headmaster's hair. Xiaoyu panics, realizing he grabbed a handful of deadly projectiles along with the wig. The vengeful instructor grabs Wu Lingen, who can only apologize for his disastrous mistake. The headmaster tries to save face, boasting that such minor injuries are nothing to a man of his power. The instructor points out the blood streaming down his face, but the headmaster insists it's all part of his plan. The new recruits are completely fooled by the act, but Xiaoyu sees right through his tough guy facade. Trying to be helpful, Wu Lingen reaches up to pull out one of the embedded projectiles. His well-intentioned act backfires as he rips the wig clean off in a fountain of black hair. The force sends the headmaster tumbling off his perch, revealing his legendary power and his underwear. The vengeful instructor catches the unconscious headmaster, his face a mask of pure shock. The recruits' respect shatters, questioning how this boastful old man could possibly be their leader. To save face, the flamboyant master hastily declares the second round over and that everyone has passed. The instructors rush the humiliated headmaster away, desperately seeking medical attention from the alchemist hall. The remaining candidates celebrate their pass, but a lingering sense of unease tells them something is wrong. A sudden chill runs down Wu Lingen's spine as he realizes they've overlooked a critical detail. Panic erupts once more as the recruits realize the instructor forgot to deactivate the still-firing mechanical puppets. A mysterious new figure watches the chaos from above, his gaze fixed on the isolated Wu Lingen. The man smirks with sinister satisfaction, pleased that his target has been delivered right to him. Later that night, the traumatized recruits huddle together, recounting how they barely survived the ordeal. Even after a chaotic day, Wu Lingen is seen training late into the night. Xiaoyu finds him and questions his late-night workout, but he's determined to pass the next day's assessment. She agrees with his goal. Knowing a better class placement means access to superior training resources. However, she reminds him that rest is just as crucial as training for a cultivator. With a blush, she offers to apply a special oil to help his meridians, but her eager expression makes him suspicious. She turns away, praising his ambition, though her true intentions seem less than pure. In a classic, not-so-subtle move, she accidentally trips over a conveniently placed rock. He instinctively catches her as she falls directly into his arms, feigning surprise. Nestled in his embrace, she celebrates her successful maneuver with a triumphant, blush-filled grin. Nearby, the stoic Baidi is interrupted from her nightly routine, looking thoroughly unamused by the disturbance. Baidi seethes with rage, promising to make Wu Lingen pay for his earlier stunt. Her vengeful thoughts are cut short by an alarming sound from a nearby room. She cautiously approaches the building, wondering about the strange noises coming from within. Her eyes widen in shock as she tries to process the disturbing sounds. Peeking through the window, she sees a horrifying silhouette that looks like Wu Lingen attacking Xiaoyu. She tries to rationalize the scene, questioning how he could be involved in such an incident so soon. Deciding she must have been mistaken, she forces herself to take another, calmer look. But the second glance only seems to confirm her initial horror as the silhouette appears damning. Inside, however, Wu Linggen is simply training with a massive iron chain as a jump rope. Xiao Yu sheepishly explains that the blood on the window was just a bottle of spilled medicinal wine. Xiao Yu offers to clean up the spilled wine, providing a convenient excuse for the mess. Misinterpreting the scene, Baidi sprints towards the room, determined to intervene. She crouches outside, steeling her resolve to rescue the girl she believes is in grave danger. A horrifying silhouette against the window seems to confirm her worst fears, sending her into a panic. Convinced she's too late, Baidi covers her face, unable to watch the gruesome scene unfold. Inside, Wu Linggen checks on Xiao Yu, who is sitting in a puddle of red liquid, feigning a simple fall. She looks up with a pout, complaining that the accident has completely ruined her outfit. Wu Linggen averts his gaze with a slight blush, completely oblivious to her scheming. He offers to find her a change of clothes, an act of kindness that she eagerly accepts. Just as the misunderstanding peaks, Baidi kicks the door off its hinges, making a dramatic entrance. Baidi bursts in, furiously accusing Wu Linggen of being a murderous demon. The scene reveals an innocent moment, with Wu Linggen simply offering a change of clothes to Xiao Yu. Her horror escalates as she accuses him of defiling a body, leaving Xiao Yu utterly bewildered. Wu Linggen looks on, completely baffled by the murderous demon accusation. He panics, thinking his true identity is exposed, while Xiao Yu frantically tries to de-escalate the situation. Refusing to listen to any explanation, Bai Di's eyes glow with cold fury as she prepares to strike. She unleashes her powerful Lingjiao sword technique, summoning an aura of spectral blades. With grim determination, she launches her devastating 10,000 swords attack. Seeing no other option, Wu Linggen steels himself, deciding he must retaliate. He moves in a blur, creating multiple afterimages as he effortlessly dodges the lethal attack. Baidi is left stunned, unable to comprehend his incredible speed. Refusing to be outdone, she declares this is only a fraction of her true power. She channels her energy into a single devastating sky-piercing sword strike. Wu Linggen's eyes gleam with focus as he prepares to meet the attack head-on. A massive beam of sword energy hurtles towards him, threatening to obliterate everything in its path. Instead of dodging, he meets the powerful energy blast with a single defiant punch. Baidi's confidence shatters as he completely neutralizes her ultimate attack with his bare fist. Before she can react, she's startled to find him standing directly behind her. He delivers a swift, precise chop to the back of her neck, a technique to end the confrontation. The prodigy from Yujian Peak collapses to the floor, completely unconscious. Xiao Yu stares in shock as Wu Linggen panics, realizing he had to use a secret technique to protect his identity. She explains his move was a legendary memory-erasing chop, designed to alter a target's recollection of events. The powerful strike has left the proud prodigy completely dazed and out cold on the floor. Realizing the trouble they're in, Xiao Yu urges him to return the unconscious girl before they're discovered. Wu Linggen quickly dresses and carries the unconscious Bai Di, preparing to sneak her back to her quarters. Under the moonlight, he leaps across the academy rooftops, a silent shadow carrying his rival. He lands near her room, but his mission is far from over. His plan hits a snag as Bai Di suddenly regains consciousness, looking dazed and confused. Thinking fast, he delivers another precise chop to her neck, putting her back to sleep. Wu Linggen breathes a sigh of relief, narrowly avoiding a disastrous exposure of his secrets. His plan hits another snag as he realizes he has no idea where she actually lives. From a nearby corner, the informant monk watches in shock, completely misinterpreting the scene. The monk follows them, trying to deduce which room belongs to the famous prodigy. Wu Linggen decides to take a chance, pushing open the door to a random, unlocked room. He gently places the unconscious Bai Di onto the bed, hoping to make a quick escape. Seeing the room is unoccupied, he incorrectly assumes it must be her quarters. Just as he's about to leave, Bai Di begins to stir, her eyes fluttering open in confusion. In a panic, he delivers a third decisive memory-erasing chop to her neck. He frantically apologizes, knowing he can't risk letting her discover his true identity. A cold sweat runs down his back as he worries about the consequences of using the technique 3 times in a row. He rationalizes his actions, concluding that a little guilt is better than having his secrets exposed. Looking around, he's surprised to find the prodigy's room is unexpectedly messy. His eyes fall upon his own muddy footprints, realizing he's left a trail of evidence. In a panic, he grabs a mop and furiously scrubs the floor to erase any trace of his presence. Deciding to be thorough, he tidies up her entire room while he's at it. Meanwhile, the mysterious hooded figure from earlier sits alone in a secluded gazebo. The rustling of nearby bushes signals the stealthy approach of an unseen observer. The hooded figure calmly calls out, telling the hidden person to stop hiding. A small cat suddenly darts from the bushes, catching the figure's attention. The informant monk emerges from a pond, praising the hooded figure's sharp senses for finding him. The hooded figure questions the monk's need for stealth, stating that nothing escapes his sight. The monk gets straight to the point, admitting he needs help dealing with a troublesome new student. With a smug grin, the hooded figure asks what he gets in return for his assistance. The monk makes a powerful offer, promising his full support in a future bid for family leadership. The deal is struck and the hooded figure asks for the target's identity, which the monk reveals to be Wu Lingen. The hooded figure recalls the arrogant recruit who took down the instructor with a single punch. The monk reveals his sinister plan to rig the next assessment, setting Wu Lingen up for an accidental elimination. The hooded figure agrees to the plan and turns to leave, reminding the monk of his end of the bargain. Just as he's leaving, the monk stops him, prompting the hooded figure to ask what else he needs. With a grim expression, the monk reveals he has another separate favor to ask. The monk reveals his other problem. He's being attacked by a massive water serpent. The hooded figure sighs in annoyance as the monk is flung about, questioning his competence. Reluctantly, he grips his sword, deciding to step in and handle the situation himself. He draws his blade, unleashing a powerful slash of concentrated water energy. The attack forms a brilliant cross of light, slicing through the darkness towards its target. His powerful strike lands with devastating force, cutting through the water and the beast. With the threat neutralized, he turns away, declaring the fight finished. However, his attack also sent the screaming monk flying into the nearby trees. With a sigh, he catches the clumsy monk before he can hit the ground. The monk looks up with admiration, much to the hooded figure's clear disgust. The hooded figure unceremoniously drops the clumsy monk headfirst into the pond. A ghostly spirit emerges from his ring, warning him that Wu Lingen is more formidable than he appears. The spirit Master Dan admits that even at his peak, he couldn't match the power Wu Lingen displayed. The hooded figure scoffs at the warning, confidently boasting that he is simply unbeatable. He then reveals his ultimate secret, declaring himself to be a time traveler from another world. A flashback reveals his past life as an ordinary student on a planet called Blue Star. His journey began after a fatal accident with a large vehicle sent him to this cultivation world. He was reborn as a mocked and insignificant young master of the powerful Xiao family. His early life in this new world was filled with humiliating and unfortunate incidents. But his destiny changed when he stumbled upon a magical ring containing the spirit of Master Dan. The spirit praises his confidence, while the hooded figure sees all rivals as mere stepping stones. He coldly resolves that Wu Lingen's fate is to be defeated by him, the story's true protagonist. Miles away, Wu Lingen is suddenly struck by an unexpected sneeze. He rubs his nose, completely unaware that he's just been marked as a target. With the room now spotless, he decides it's finally time to make his escape. He quietly opens the door, preparing to slip away unnoticed. Wu Lingen leaps from the building, disappearing into the night. The quiet street is left empty in the wake of his departure. Moments later, the hooded figure arrives, standing in the now empty street. He stops before the room Wu Lingen just left, his gaze fixed on the door. The hooded figure enters his room, noticing it's been immaculately cleaned by an unknown visitor. His eyes widen in shock as he discovers the unconscious Bai Di lying on his bed. He stares down at the sleeping prodigy, trying to make sense of the impossible situation. His composure breaks into a flustered panic at finding a woman in his private quarters. Bai Di turns over in her sleep, completely oblivious to the man's growing confusion. He recognizes the famous goddess from Yujin Peak, realizing the identity of his unexpected guest. Shaking off his infatuation, he tries to think rationally about what to do next. He takes in the spotless room again, connecting the cleaning to his mysterious visitor. He pieces together the clues, believing a beautiful girl secretly tidied his room and waited for him. With unwavering confidence, he arrives at the only logical conclusion. She must be in love with him. He recalls tales from his past life where protagonists like him always win the heroine's heart. He gazes at the sleeping Bai Di, wondering if she is his fated love. His fantasy is interrupted by a simple question. Why hasn't she woken up yet? Master Dan explains her consciousness is damaged, preventing her from waking. He concludes she must have exhausted herself cleaning his room, much to the spirit's disgust. Confident in his past life's knowledge, he prepares to administer first aid. He kneels beside the bed, ready to put his questionable medical skills to the test. Just then, Bai Di lets out a faint groan, showing signs of stirring. Her eyes slowly open as she dazedly tries to understand her situation. He leans in close, preparing to give her a reviving kiss, completely misreading the moment. Wu Lingen stands outside, completely baffled by the sudden turn of events. Before the hooded figure can react, Bai Di sends him flying out the door with a powerful kick. The bruised protagonist questions her actions, while Master Dan suggests he might be overthinking things. He confidently concludes that his romantic advance was simply too forward for a reserved woman of this world. The spirit questions his logic, proposing she might have just entered the wrong room by mistake. He dismisses the doubt with a smug grin, declaring it's his destiny as the protagonist. Meanwhile, a dazed Bai Di wanders the academy grounds, trying to piece together the previous night. A fragmented memory flashes in her mind, recalling her furious confrontation with Wu Lingen. The pieces slowly click into place as she begins to remember the chaotic misunderstanding. Her memory solidifies into a horrifying, incorrect conclusion. Wu Lingen is a demonic cultivator. She wrongly concludes that the man in the room was Wu Lingen's accomplice in a dark conspiracy. With a confident smirk, she vows to find the proof she needs to expose him as a demonic cultivator. Her furious declaration echoes across the academy rooftops, putting Wu Lingen squarely in her sights. The commotion wakes other recruits, who gossip about the mysterious late-night feud between the prodigy and the powerhouse. The next day, the candidates gather at the performance stage for the next round of assessments. Impatience grows among the crowd as they wait, wondering why none of the instructors have appeared. Meanwhile, Wu Lingen pushes himself to the limit, training with heavy weights to the shock of his peers. Xiao Yu tries to calm his nerves, but he insists he can't afford to relax before the final test. Baidi spots him from the crowd, her expression filled with contempt for his perceived arrogance. The other recruits notice her intense stare, recalling her shouts from the previous night and fueling more speculation. The informant monk smugly tells the crowd he knows the real story behind the feud. He begins to spin a tale about a secret, deeper relationship between Wu Lingen and the prodigy. His gossip is cut short as a cold blade is suddenly pressed against his throat. The hooded figure warns him to stop slandering Bai Di, forcing a terrified agreement from the monk. With a dismissive shove, the hooded figure sends the informant monk tumbling to the ground. The other recruits whisper about his motives, dismissing him as one of Bai Di's many admirers. He confidently tells his spirit companion that Bai Di is his fated heroine, destined only for him. Suddenly, a thunderous shout for silence cuts through the crowd's chatter. The flamboyant instructor finally makes his appearance, drawing the attention of Wu Lingen and the other candidates. He makes a dramatic entrance, firing several energy blasts onto the stage to signal the start of the final assessment. The instructors formally announce the beginning of the third and final assessment. A grim-faced instructor reveals this round is a live combat trial, where performance dictates their future class. The dean strokes his new, even more ridiculous wig, confirming he will personally oversee the evaluations. Wu Lingen can't help but notice the dean's updated hairpiece, earning a nervous shush from Xiao Yu. The dean glares, seemingly having heard the comment, before curtly agreeing to the proceedings. An instructor presses a large red button on a remote, initiating the next phase of the test. A bizarre penguin-shaped dispenser drops onto the stage as the recruits are told to draw their match numbers. The candidates line up, each reaching into the strange machine to determine their opponent. Wu Lingen steps forward, his expression showing mild surprise at the unusual lottery system. He reaches into the dispenser's slot, ready to discover his fate in the upcoming combat trial. The informant monk rigs the lottery, using a sharp projectile to pin a specific number for his target. The rigged number is sent flying with precision, embedding itself in the pile of papers. Wu Lingen looks slightly confused as he reaches into the strange dispenser. He pulls out a crumpled paper, pierced by the very same projectile used to rig the draw. Unfolding the paper, he finds the number 38, unaware of the trap that has been set. From the sidelines, the hooded figure watches with a sinister smirk, pleased the plan is in motion. The informant monk celebrates his success, though his partner questions the cost of breaking his life-bound weapon for the trick. He boasts about his resilience, only to cough up blood from the strain, earning a sharp rebuke. The hooded figure reveals his own number, pointing out a flaw in the plan. They aren't even matched to fight. The monk confidently dismisses his concern, hinting that the hooded figure doesn't grasp the full scope of his scheme. The monk explains his true intention was to use another fighter to gauge Wu Lingen's strength. A massive shadow falls over Wu Lingen as he turns to face his first opponent. A towering brute holding number 37 dismisses Wu Lingen as a weakling who should just surrender. The informant monk's companion worries, noting that Wu Lingen's opponent looks incredibly dangerous. The monk reveals the man is Wang Tieju, a notorious assassin from the martial world. He adds to the tension, claiming that no one who witnesses the assassin's techniques lives to tell the tale. The assassin confronts Wu Lingen, revealing he's been watching his performance in the previous tests. He smugly dismisses Wu Lingen's skills, calling him nothing more than a brute with some natural strength. The assassin condescendingly pats Wu Lingen's cheek, boasting he might accidentally end him in the arena. Xiao Yu pulls Wu Lingen away from the taunting opponent, but he remains completely unfazed. The assassin smirks, daring Wu Lingen to challenge him on the spot. His followers watch eagerly, convinced their leader is about to unleash his power. But Wu Lingen simply apologizes, admitting his spiritual root is poor, much to the assassin's confusion. Xiao Yu frantically tells him not to be so polite, but he calmly agrees with his opponent's assessment. The assassin's ego swells, demanding Wu Lingen kneel to be spared. Wu Lingen pauses, considering the arrogant demand. His expression hardens as he declares that despite his weakness, he has his own reasons to fight. The assassin's eye narrows, angered by the unexpected defiance. He scoffs at the response, vowing to crush Wu Lingen in the arena before turning his back. Xiaoyu swoons with admiration for his cool demeanor, leaving Wu Lingen slightly baffled by her reaction. The assassin reminds the monk of their deal. Eliminate Wu Lingen in exchange for a spot in the top class. He confidently walks away, vowing to make an example out of the arrogant newcomer. The hooded figure worries their target might be eliminated too soon, but the monk's sinister laugh suggests he has it all under control. An instructor officially concludes the lottery and calls the first two contestants to the stage. A single boot steps forward, signaling the start of the Academy's combat trials. The first fighter is announced as Bai Di, whose appearance sends her many admirers into a frenzy. Her opponent, Zhang Ma, makes a bold and inappropriate proposition, immediately earning the crowd's fury. He casually deflects the food and trash thrown by the audience, mocking their futile attempts to attack him from behind. His smug expression vanishes as he realizes a much larger object is about to strike him from behind. The instructor, who is standing behind the fighter, is now covered in food, while the bruised contestant offers a weak apology. The informant monk smirks, amused by the hooded figure's sudden protective stance. The hooded figure glares, possessively claiming Bai Di and vowing to remember her opponent's name. His companion questions this sudden attachment, but the hooded figure smugly credits his protagonist's aura. The flamboyant instructor cuts the chatter short, officially starting the first match. On stage, Bai Di's opponent eagerly anticipates their confrontation. He confidently declares he will demonstrate the true power of his sect to her. With a smug grin, he prepares to unleash a powerful signature move. He blurs into motion, creating multiple afterimages to overwhelm his opponent. The crowd marvels at his speed, recognizing the impressive martial technique of the Heiwan sect. While his companion is impressed, the informant monk seems to find a flaw in the flashy display. He confidently taunts Bai Di, challenging her to find his real body among the afterimages. Bai Di, however, remains completely unfazed by his showy display. Her gaze lowers, spotting an obvious flaw in his otherwise impressive stance. Without hesitation, she delivers a swift, well-aimed kick that shatters his illusion and his composure. He stumbles back in agony, accusing her of fighting dirty, but she remains unmoved. But he reveals a hidden metal plate, smugly admitting he's been prepared for such an attack, much to her surprise. With his trick revealed, he decides to get serious, gathering powerful energy in his hands. He prepares to launch the massive sphere of energy directly at his opponent. Yet instead of attacking, he begins to circle her again, creating afterimages while still holding the energy orb. From the sidelines, Wu Lingen questions the fighter's strange tactic, wondering why he doesn't just throw the attack. The informant monk explains that for low-level cultivators, projecting qi is a difficult feat. This new knowledge makes Wu Lingen realize the true power of his father and Xiaoyu. On the stage, the fighter continues his flashy display, circling Bai Di with the energy orb. Unimpressed, Bai Di casually stops the orb with a single hand, questioning his power. Her opponent is stunned that his attack was so easily caught and declares an end to the charade. Bai Di glares back, warning him not to underestimate her. He quickly leaps back, putting distance between them for his next move. With a smug grin, he reveals his control over the orb is more advanced than she knows. He remotely triggers the orb, causing it to detonate in a brilliant flash of light. The powerful explosion engulfs Bai Di, catching her completely off guard. Caught off guard, Bai Di recoils in shock from the sudden detonation. Her opponent strikes a smug pose, revealing he can manipulate the explosion's direction. But the prodigy gracefully kicks away the multiple energy projectiles now homing in on her. The instructors watch in amazement, impressed by the Heiwan sect's unique energy manipulation. The informant monk explains the fighter uses spiritual threads to control his attacks remotely. Unfazed, Bai Di casually bats away another energy sphere, showing her contempt for the attack. Her expression hardens with fury, deciding she has had enough of his cheap tricks. Feeling insulted, she finally draws her sword, determined to end the fight quickly. With a series of swift slashes, she effortlessly dices the energy orb into pieces. Now on the offensive, she glares at her opponent, ready to unleash her true power. Her opponent's defensive plate shatters under the force of her precise strike. He stares in wide-eyed horror, realizing the fight is already over. Crumpled on the ground, he grudgingly acknowledges the power of the woman he targeted. A single, decisive blow leaves him collapsed and defeated on the stage floor. The informant monk is left speechless, questioning how she so easily dismantled her opponent's technique. An instructor officially calls the match, declaring Bai Di the decisive winner. Bai Di stands unfazed by the crowd's wild cheers, her opponent a forgotten heap behind her. Wu Lingen watches intently, getting his first real look at a battle between skilled cultivators. The celebration is interrupted as a girl in the crowd is comically struck by a flying turkey leg. Wu Lingen's expression hardens, his focus sharpening for the challenge that awaits him. A pink-haired admirer swoons, recognizing Bai Di as the top female cultivator of her generation. The girl wistfully dreams of having such power, while Bai Di remains impassive. Wu Lingyan is startled by the girl's imposing figure as she stands before him, holding a massive turkey leg. Xiao Yu flinches back, shocked by the sudden close-up view of the girl's physique. A sly grin spreads across Xiao Yu's face as she misinterprets Wu Lingyan's interest. The pink-haired girl notices Wu Lingyan's intense, drooling stare. She offers him the meat, questioning if he's hungry for food or something else entirely. Wu Lingyan sheepishly admits he's just hungry from training, much to Xiao Yu's disbelief. Xiao Yu panics, realizing her romantic assumptions were completely wrong. He happily accepts the food, leaving Xiao Yu fuming that a stranger seems to understand him better. The defeated fighter is unceremoniously carried away on a stretcher as an instructor calls for the next match. While still eating, Wu Lingyan asks the pink-haired girl for her name. She happily introduces herself as Murong Chan, a student who entered the academy last year. Xiao Yu expresses her surprise, questioning why a senior student is competing with the freshman. Murong sheepishly admits she was held back due to poor grades and is retaking the placement exam. Wu Lingyan notes her calm appetite for someone who faces expulsion if she fails again. A nearby student leans in, preparing to share some crucial information about the mysterious senior. He reveals that Murong is from a famous alchemy family, revered throughout the 9 provinces. Her unique skill combines alchemy and cooking, turning potent ingredients into delicious food. Wu Lingyan freezes in shock, realizing the turkey leg he just ate was actually a powerful spiritual pill. Wu Lingyan expresses his embarrassment, but Murong Chan cheerfully brushes off his apology. She explains her simple motivation is that she can't bear to see anyone go hungry. Her simple act of kindness leaves Wu Lingyan stunned, while Xiao Yu looks on in disbelief. He's completely won over by her generosity, much to Xiao Yu's growing irritation. Their conversation is interrupted by a crowd of admirers swarming around Bai Di. The prodigy remains completely stoic, unimpressed by the fawning crowd. Murong Chan joins the fans, nervously approaching Bai Di to ask for an autograph. Her eyes sparkle with pure, unadulterated admiration for the famous cultivator. Bai Di responds with a cold huff, clearly uninterested in her new fan. Wu Lingyan and Xiao Yu simply observe the awkward exchange from the sidelines. Bai Di dismisses the autograph request, but cryptically warns Wu Lingyan to be careful about the company he keeps. She then turns on him, furiously vowing to uncover the truth of what happened between them the previous night. As she storms away, the crowd's gossip intensifies, convinced the rumors about their relationship are true. Murong Chan's eyes sparkle as she asks if he's close with the prodigy, but he nervously brushes it off. She grabs his arm, desperately pleading for an introduction to her idol, leaving him completely flustered. A gruff instructor's angry shout cuts through the air, directed squarely at Murong Chan. From the stage, the instructor scolds her for being distracted and orders her to prepare for her upcoming match. Before leaving, Murong earnestly reminds Wu Lingyan of her request, and he reluctantly agrees to try. Xiao Yu warns him to stay away from the odd, held-back student, but he defends Murong's character. He recalls his own past suffering, concluding that her simple act of kindness proves she can't be a bad person. The instructor sternly reminds Murong Chan that this is her final chance to pass the exam. She takes a deep breath, the pressure of the moment weighing heavily on her. With newfound resolve, she vows to win at least one match to avoid being sent home. A painful memory reveals her terror of returning to a dark past, fueling her desperation to stay. The instructor impatiently calls for contestant number 36 to take the stage. From the crowd, the hooded figure watches with a sinister interest as Murong walks forward. Her eyes widen in shock as she recognizes the familiar figure stepping up to be her opponent. The hooded figure adjusts his collar, a smug expression hinting at his confidence. He pulls down his hood, revealing a wicked grin as he announces he's her challenger. The instructor declares the match ready to begin, with Murong Chan now facing the story's self-proclaimed protagonist. The two opponents face off, one with fierce determination, the other with a smug, confident grin. The instructors gossip, revealing Murong's poor academic record despite her prestigious family background. A flashback shows her failing the alchemy test by cooking a meal instead of refining pills. They conclude that another loss in this placement test could result in her expulsion from the academy. A fellow student worries for her, noting that her culinary alchemy skills don't translate to combat prowess. The instructor takes his position on the stage, preparing to officiate the high-stakes match. With a dramatic leap, the instructor officially signals the start of the fight. Murong steals her resolve, knowing she absolutely cannot afford to lose this time. Her opponent smirks, casually noting that his first match is against an unexpectedly cute girl. He confidently envisions an easy victory, already picturing her defeated at his feet. He gets lost in a fantasy, imagining his victory will win him the affection of both Murong and Bai Di. His daydream is cut short as Murong Chan lunges forward, throwing a powerful punch. The blow lands squarely on his face, snapping him out of his arrogant fantasy. He staggers back from the unexpected force of the attack, completely stunned. From the sidelines, Wu Linggen and Xiaoyu watch in confusion, baffled by his strange behavior. Master Dan's spirit scolds him for his carelessness, but he confidently dismisses the concern, citing his protagonist's status. Seeing her opponent dazed, Murong Chan prepares to launch another determined strike. She unleashes a second powerful punch, aiming to end the fight quickly. But this time he reacts instantly, catching her fist just before it makes contact. With a smug grin, he declares that he won't be caught off guard a second time, leaving Murong shocked by his speed. Refusing to be stopped, she flips through the air and lands a powerful kick squarely on his jaw. He stumbles back from the blow, forced to crouch as she lands gracefully, ready to press her advantage. Her expression hardens with fury, channeling her frustration into her next move. He responds with a mocking display of speed, creating afterimages and taunting her inability to land a clean hit. From the crowd, Wu Linggen cheers her on, much to Xiaoyu's visible annoyance. Murong Chan pants heavily, seemingly overwhelmed by his superior speed and technique. Desperate to win, she pulls out a massive loaf of spiritual bread, vowing not to be defeated. To her opponent's utter shock, she begins to force-feed herself the entire loaf. A fellow student explains to a stunned Wu Linggen that she's using spiritual food to boost her power. The student adds that her food acts like potent pills, expressing concern over her consuming so much at once. The student warns that consuming so much spiritual food at once could cause her body to overload. A brilliant flash of light erupts from Murong, catching her opponent completely by surprise. She emerges from the light, her clothes torn but her power and confidence soaring to new heights. Wu Linggen and Xiaoyu stare in disbelief, questioning the nature of her explosive transformation. Her opponent smirks through a sudden nosebleed, seemingly unfazed by the impressive display. He arrogantly dismisses her last-ditch effort, while Wu Linggen dryly points out his embarrassing reaction. Murong's expression hardens with resolve, vowing to fight on no matter how impossible it seems. Fueled by new power, she leaps into the air and unleashes a devastating kick from above. He casually blocks her enhanced strike, the sheer force of the impact shattering the stage beneath them. The spirit frantically warns him of her new power level, but the protagonist calmly confirms he is already aware. Murong Chan refuses to back down, unleashing another furious punch with her newfound strength. Her opponent finally decides to get serious, preparing to meet her head-on. Their fists meet in a blinding explosion of energy, shaking the entire stage. The hooded figure's confident smirk vanishes, replaced by genuine shock at her raw power. She follows up with a devastating kick, sending him crashing into the shattered arena floor. While Wu Linggen is impressed, Xiaoyu correctly deduces that Murong is forcing herself past her natural limits. Xiaoyu soberly notes that such an intense power-up can't be maintained for more than a few minutes. Murong stands exhausted amidst the rubble, her temporary power boost already fading. Panting and barely standing, she desperately hopes her all-out assault was enough to secure a victory. The instructors watch nervously, one fearing the worst for her opponent while the other remains calm. But the hooded figure rises from the rubble, his face a mask of pure fury as he declares the fight isn't over. His ego is bruised, shocked that a local girl could push him, a self-proclaimed time traveler, this far. Wiping blood from his face, he decides it's time to finally reveal his true power. From the cratered stage, he glares up at Murong, ready to unleash his full potential. With a chilling grin, he vows to stop holding back and end the fight for good. He vanishes in a blur of motion, moving faster than she can possibly track. Murong's eyes widen in disbelief, unable to comprehend his sudden burst of speed. He surrounds her with a flurry of afterimages, leaving her completely overwhelmed. He then launches himself high into the air, preparing a devastating attack from above. From the sidelines, Wu Linggen and Xiaoyu watch in horror, shouting a desperate warning. Murong looks up, her eyes wide with shock as the attack descends upon her. She's sent flying backward, caught in a whirlwind of energy and shattered rock. He lands gracefully, scoffing as she stumbles from the force of his initial strike. With a wicked grin, he summons a glowing blue lotus of pure energy, vowing she won't escape. He unleashes the pure heart fire lotus, sending the massive energy construct hurtling towards her. The lotus detonates in a cataclysmic explosion, completely engulfing Murong's silhouette. She cries out in agony, overwhelmed by the devastating force of the blast. Wu Linggen and Xiaoyu can only stare in disbelief at the overwhelming power on display. As the energy subsides, Murong is revealed, battered and barely standing, but still defiant. Xiaoyu quickly covers Wu Linggen's eyes, shielding him from the intense sight as the crowd recoils in shock. The instructors recognize his legendary technique, believing the match is already over. But Murong Chan staggers to her feet, questioning why he's hesitating. He smirks condescendingly, asking if she's finally ready to surrender. Her defiant glare is her only answer, refusing to admit defeat. In a desperate move, she pulls out another spiritual concoction and drinks it all. Her body erupts in a fiery aura as she pushes past her limits once more. Her opponent's smug confidence shatters, shocked that she can still fight. With a furious roar, she channels her newfound power and lunges forward. She unleashes a blindingly fast barrage of powerful strikes. The protagonist is forced onto the defensive, barely blocking the relentless assault with his sword. The crowd watches in disbelief, questioning Murong's sanity as she continues her frenzied assault. Wu Lingyan wonders if her aura intensified because of a breakthrough, but Xiaoyu dismisses the idea. Xiaoyu explains Murong is forcing another power-up with more pills, pushing far beyond her body's natural limits. With a grim expression, Xiaoyu realizes Murong is sacrificing her own life force for this temporary power. Driven by sheer desperation, a battered Murong continues her attack, refusing to accept defeat. Her opponent barely holds on, a smirk forming as he endures the relentless barrage. Annoyed by her stubbornness, he decides to stop holding back and end the fight. He leaps into the air, trapping her within a massive, glowing construct called the Azure Lotus. The Lotus detonates in a cataclysmic explosion, unleashing a devastating wave of energy. Murong is caught in the blast, sent flying backward as the overwhelming force engulfs her. He smirks, preparing to deliver the final blow with his glowing sword. A panicked instructor screams for the officiator to stop the match, fearing for Murong's life. Ignoring the call, the protagonist unleashes another devastating whirlwind attack. The instructor leaps forward, desperately shouting that the match is over. But he realizes with dawning horror that he is far too late to intervene. A defeated Murong closes her eyes, bracing for the inevitable impact. Her consciousness fades into a painful memory of her culinary creations being destroyed. A family member berates her for shaming their prestigious alchemy clan with her cooking. She passionately defends her craft, arguing that her food is a new form of alchemy. Her defiance is met with a harsh physical rebuke, as he declares cooking a disgrace to their name. Her family considered her a lost cause, planning to send her to the academy before marrying her off. The painful memory ends with her being cruelly disowned, called a worthless disgrace to her clan. Back on the stage, her will finally crumbles as she collapses in defeat. But a final surge of defiance flashes in her eyes, determined to prove the value of her craft. She sinks back into despair, questioning if she can ever truly change her destiny. Resigned to her fate, she closes her eyes and accepts the final blow. But just as the blade is about to strike, a hand suddenly stops its descent. Wu Lingyan has leaped onto the stage, catching the sword and shielding Murong from the attack. He glares at the hooded figure, firmly stating that he won't allow him to hurt Murong. The protagonist is stunned, realizing he can't retract his weapon from Wu Lingyan's powerful grip. The hooded figure smirks, mockingly acknowledging Wu Lingyan's unexpected courage. An instructor finally intervenes, landing between the fighters and officially ending the brutal match. Despite the interference, the instructor declares the hooded figure the winner by default. The protagonist scoffs, smugly accepting the victory he nearly took too far. He turns his back on the scene, casually slinging his sword as he prepares to leave the stage. With a final glance, he warns Wu Lingyan to survive his own match so they can settle things personally. Wu Lingyan nervously scratches his head, naively promising to try his best to pass the first round. Xiaoyu fumes at his cluelessness, pointing out that he was just openly threatened. Their argument is cut short as Murong coughs, finally regaining consciousness behind them. She looks up at her rescuer with gratitude, thanking him for stepping in when no one else would. Murong expresses her disappointment, lamenting that she still couldn't win despite giving it her all. The weight of her failure finally hits her, and she breaks down in tears. The emotional moment is ruined as she suddenly gets sick, causing Wu Lingyan and Xiaoyu to panic. She quickly reassures them she's fine, grabbing onto Wu Lingyan for support. Murong sheepishly admits she just ate too much to Xiaoyu's exasperation. Wu Lingyan offers to help her off the stage, and she gratefully accepts his kindness. But before they can leave, a menacing voice stops Wu Lingyan in his tracks. The assassin from earlier stands on the stage, informing Wu Lingyan that it's now his turn to fight. The announcer confirms his opponent is the notorious assassin, Wang Tieju, who smirks with confidence. Wu Lingyan tells Xiaoyu to escort Murong to safety, receiving a heartfelt wish of good luck before he faces his opponent. Xiaoyu glares at Murong, internally questioning why she should have to care about the other girl. An instructor shouts for both sides to prepare, his voice signaling the start of the intense battle. Wu Lingyan stands ready on the stage, facing the assassin and his enormous spiked weapon. The assassin mockingly tells Wu Lingyan he's forfeited his last chance to survive. Wu Lingyan remains completely silent, his stoic expression revealing none of his thoughts. The instructor officially begins the match, and the assassin immediately leaps into action. His massive weapon crashes down, shattering the stage floor with incredible force. From behind his pillar, the assassin grins menacingly, promising to finish the fight for good. Murong worries about the staggering power of the attack, but Xiaoyu remains completely unfazed. Xiaoyu confidently reassures her, stating that no attack is capable of bringing Wu Linggen down. As the dust settles, Wu Linggen stands perfectly still, facing the menacing assassin from across the stage. Wu Linggen watches with a puzzled expression, trying to anticipate his opponent's next move. The assassin takes a deep, dramatic breath, preparing to unleash his signature technique. With a mighty roar, he flexes his muscles, his clothes ripping away as he channels his power. A blinding flash of light erupts from the assassin, momentarily obscuring him from view. He then stomps the ground, revealing an unexpectedly delicate and lacy pink sock. He strikes a dramatic pose in a full set of matching pink lingerie, performing his iron pillar dance. The bizarre display is so overwhelming that Wu Linggen gets a sudden, intense nosebleed. The entire audience suffers the same fate, recoiling in a wave of shared shock and disgust. The informant monk's companion realizes the true nature of the attack, a technique that nauseates foes into submission. A colorful instructor recoils in disgust, declaring the bizarre display a stain on the Academy's honor. The informant monk's partner explains the visual assault is merely a diversion for the real attack. He gestures to the audience where everyone has collapsed from the overwhelming sight. Even Wu Linggen is affected, clutching his stomach and looking incredibly nauseous. Taking advantage of the distraction, the assassin leaps high, preparing to crush his weakened opponent. He slams his weapon down with devastating force, aiming to end the fight in one blow. But Wu Linggen narrowly dodges, as the assassin vows that he won't escape. The assassin scoffs in frustration, annoyed that his opponent is still standing. He launches into another dizzying attack, spinning his pillar in a chaotic dance. The audience is completely overwhelmed, with some crying in agony and others becoming physically ill from the spectacle. Murong suddenly understands the true nature of the attack, much to Xiaoyu's confusion. She reveals the assassin's grotesque display is just a cover for a more sinister trick, a toxic smoke released from his pillar. The assassin smirks, declaring the entire arena is now filled with his poison, guaranteeing his victory. Wu Linggen covers his mouth, his expression hardening as he feels the effects of the hidden attack. Xiaoyu and Murong are appalled by his underhanded tactics, calling his methods despicable. The assassin scoffs at their judgment, believing that in a real fight, any method is justified. From the crowd, the informant monk smirks, satisfied with the performance of his hired killer. His companion points out that even the monk was initially fooled, much to his surprise. The assassin brings his massive weapon crashing down, intent on finishing his opponent in agony. Wu Linggen stumbles, suddenly unable to move as the poison paralyzes his body and clouds his mind. Wu Linggen stares in horror, his body refusing to obey his commands. The assassin mocks his futile struggle, pointing out he can't even use a fraction of his strength. But with a final surge of will, Wu Linggen charges forward, determined to land one last blow. His desperate punch is met with a brutal counterstrike from the assassin's pillar. The impact sends him reeling, the force of the blow leaving him battered and bleeding. The assassin scoffs, unimpressed by the weak resistance and ready to continue the punishment. He unleashes a frenzied series of attacks, determined to beat his opponent into submission. Wu Linggen is overwhelmed by the relentless barrage, taking hit after hit without being able to retaliate. Murong watches in disbelief at the one-sided beatdown, while Xiaoyu begs him to stop fighting. Xiaoyu screams for the instructors to stop the match, unable to watch the brutal display any longer. An instructor refuses to stop the fight, arguing that Wu Linggen is still capable of defending himself. Wu Linggen endures a relentless flurry of strikes, his body battered by the overwhelming assault. Xiaoyu watches helplessly as her friend is sent flying across the stage by a devastating blow. The assassin mockingly expresses his disappointment in Wu Linggen's lack of strength. He raises his massive weapon, preparing to deliver a decisive final strike to his downed opponent. The weapon comes crashing down in a brutal, stylized impact that shakes the entire arena. His friends can only watch in speechless horror, believing the fight has finally ended. But the assassin's confident grin is suddenly replaced by a look of pure, utter shock. Against all odds, a bloodied Wu Linggen has caught the massive weapon, stopping the attack with his bare hands. The assassin scoffs in disbelief, questioning his opponent's futile attempt to resist. With his remaining strength, Wu Linggen resolves to pour everything he has into one final desperate punch. The assassin scoffs, completely underestimating the power behind his opponent's last-ditch effort. Wu Linggen's fist lands squarely on his opponent, delivering a seemingly weak but well-placed strike. The assassin's smug confidence shatters, replaced by dawning horror as he realizes his fatal miscalculation. A brilliant flash of golden energy erupts from the point of impact, catching him completely off guard. The unexpected force sends the assassin flying backward, his massive weapon slipping from his grasp. He crashes into the arena wall with devastating force, sending a cloud of dust and debris into the air. The entire audience, including his friends, can only stare in stunned silence at the unbelievable reversal. As the dust settles, Wu Linggen stands over his defeated opponent, who looks up in utter disbelief. The assassin recoils in agony, completely overwhelmed by the power of the seemingly simple punch. With a final undignified thud, the assassin collapses onto the stage, completely defeated. Battered but standing, Wu Lingyan clenches his fist, absorbing the hard-fought victory. The assassin stares up from the floor, his mind unable to process the impossible turn of events. He demands to know how Wu Lingyan overcame his poison and still managed such a decisive blow. Wu Lingyan simply clenches his bloodied fist, a silent testament to his hidden strength. He reveals that the final punch was merely a fraction of his true power, even while weakened. The assassin can only stare in utter terror, realizing he was fighting a true monster all along. An instructor, still processing the shocking upset, officially declares Wu Lingyan the winner. Wu Lingyan gives a small, relieved smile, glad to have survived his first official match. From the audience, Xiao Yu and Murong decide it's time to clear the lingering poison from the arena. The flamboyant instructor takes action, tossing a large green disc into the air. The disc spins rapidly, spraying a purifying mist across the entire arena. As the antidote rain falls, the paralyzed crowd begins to recover, their mobility returning. Wu Lingyan is surprised to feel his own strength and movement fully restored. Murong-chan joyfully rushes through the rain to congratulate him on his victory. She embraces him in a powerful celebratory hug, catching him completely off guard. From the sidelines, Xiao Yu seethes with jealousy, her anger boiling over at the sight. With a furious stomp, she prepares to march over and intervene. She forcefully yanks Wu Lingyan away from Murong, much to their surprise. Xiao Yu angrily confronts Murong, warning her to keep her distance from Wu Lingyan. Xiao Yu accuses Murong of having ulterior motives, while Murong insists her congratulations were sincere. From the crowd, the hooded protagonist seethes with jealousy, believing he should be the one getting all the attention. His companion begrudgingly admits that Wu Lingyan's power is far beyond his initial expectations. The companion then questions if the protagonist is truly sure he can defeat such a formidable opponent. Unfazed, the protagonist smirks, confidently declaring that failure is not an option for him. Their conversation is interrupted by a stern official who hands the protagonist a fine for setting fires during his match. The protagonist reacts angrily, but his companion quickly restrains him, warning him not to be impulsive. His friend reveals the official is the head of academy discipline, and, more importantly, the dean's uncle. The red-haired official glares with an intimidating aura, showing he is not a man to be crossed. To make matters worse, his companion points out that the eccentric-looking dean is watching the entire exchange. The protagonist reluctantly hands over a bag of spirit stones, swallowing his pride to pay the initial fine. His compliance is met with another penalty, this time for attacking an official, leaving him utterly stunned. As his friend restrains him, he furiously agrees to pay the exorbitant fines, his anger barely contained. He glares at the departing official, silently vowing to make both him and the dean regret this day. His vengeful gaze then shifts to Wu Lingyan, adding another name to his growing list of enemies. Across the arena, Wu Lingyan shivers from a sudden, inexplicable chill, unaware of the new threat. The informant monk interrupts, showering Wu Lingyan with praise for his impressive victory. He then cheekily admits the fight was a great opportunity to gather intel for the black market. An instructor's voice cuts through the crowd, calling the monk to the stage for the final match of the round. The monk's smug expression vanishes, replaced by dawning realization that his own fight is next. The informant monk takes a deep breath, facing his red-haired opponent on the empty stage. The opponent, Yujiaxue, stares back with a cold and indifferent expression. From the stands, the eccentric dean confirms to the discipline official that the fighter is indeed his useless grandson. He laments that his grandson's refusal to learn their family techniques forced him to enroll the boy in the academy. The crowd buzzes with this new information, with many students already planning to befriend the dean's handsome grandson. The monk scoffs at Wu Lingyan's worry, confidently telling him not to underestimate his abilities. He brandishes his notebook, boasting that his superior intelligence will easily overcome any physical disadvantage. The monk smirks at his opponent, revealing he's already gathered plenty of intel on the dean's grandson. With newfound confidence, he vows to use the secret techniques of his Tianji sect to secure a victory. The instructor leaps dramatically into the air, officially signaling the beginning of the final match. The informant monk unleashes his divine technique, opening a mystical third eye on his forehead. Xiao Yu explains this is a rare Tianji sect skill that allows the user to glimpse into the future. Now facing the dean's grandson, the monk confidently prepares to put his unique abilities to the test. His opponent smirks and charges forward, eager to see the power of this legendary technique for himself. The monk focuses his power, initiating the Tianji deduction to analyze his foe. His third eye projects a detailed analysis, revealing his opponent's stats and fighting preferences. The deduction concludes with 85% certainty that his opponent will open with an earth-based technique. As predicted, the dean's grandson unleashes a powerful earth rock thrust, sending massive spikes across the stage. But the monk is nowhere to be seen, having already moved to a safe position far from the impact. He smirks from a distance, boasting that he had already calculated and evaded the predictable attack. Wu Lingyan is surprised by the monk's agility, but Xiaoyu reveals it's a result of his heavenly eye technique. She explains the eye channels the divine thoughts of the Tianji ancestor, giving him godlike perception. A golden spiritual projection of the ancestor appears behind the monk, confirming his connection to a higher power. Unimpressed, the dean's grandson charges forward, his fists glowing with fiery red energy. The monk's third eye calculates his opponent's next move, predicting a 90% chance of a close-range martial arts attack. As predicted, his opponent uses a powerful technique to close the distance in an instant. The red-haired fighter appears before him, ready to unleash a powerful strike. Guided by his divine insight, the monk calmly prepares to block the telegraphed blow. He smirks, certain that his perfect calculation will allow him to effortlessly stop the attack. But his confidence shatters as the punch lands squarely on his face, completely ignoring his attempted block. The devastating blow sends the informant monk flying across the stage, his perfect calculations utterly shattered. The dean's grandson stares coldly, his expression unchanging after landing the decisive strike. On the ground, the monk looks up in a daze, his face comically swollen from the unexpected impact. From the sidelines, Wu Lingyan and Xiaoyu cry out in shock at their friend's sudden defeat. Even in defeat, the monk tries to update his notes, realizing he forgot to calculate the massive gap in their power. He finally succumbs to the pain and collapses, dropping his notebook and ending the match. The instructor congratulates the victorious grandson, who looks down at his defeated opponent without emotion. From the stands, the dean notes his grandson's progress, but laments his stubborn refusal to use their family's techniques. The red-haired fighter stands alone on the stage, sensing his grandfather's distant observation. He turns to face the stands, his stoic expression offering no hint of his feelings toward his family. The instructor dismisses the victorious grandson, who remains impassive on the stage. Wu Lingyan carries the defeated monk, genuinely complimenting his impressive third eye technique. The monk reassures him of his own strength, while Wu Lingyan wishes he could learn such a cool skill. An instructor announces the second round will begin immediately with randomly selected opponents. The other instructors gossip amongst themselves, questioning the randomness of the impromptu matchups. The protagonist worries about the random pairings, but his companion tells him not to fret. His friend smirks, revealing that many other students also have a grudge against Wu Lingyan. The instructor dramatically crumples the drawn lots, declaring the first match has been set. He unfurls the papers, preparing to announce the first pairing of the second round. Wu Lingyan's name is called, and he looks up in surprise, realizing he's up next. The instructor reveals Wu Lingyan's opponent is the self-proclaimed protagonist, who smirks with confidence. Xiaoyu questions the random pairing, suspecting the match was deliberately arranged. An instructor overhears and defensively insists the academy would never target its new disciples. The protagonist leaps onto the stage, smugly agreeing that the instructor would never show favoritism. He taunts Wu Lingyan from the stage, asking if his hesitation is due to fear of his strength. Wu Lingyan silences Xiaoyu's angry retort, his expression hardening with focus. He declares his resolve, knowing he can't back down if he wants to secure a spot in a better class. Murong finds his serious expression cool, much to Xiaoyu's jealous annoyance, while the monk notes the love triangle. Wu Lingyan steps onto the stage, ready to face his formidable and arrogant opponent. The protagonist smirks, mockingly surprised that Wu Lingyan actually dared to come up and fight him. With a cruel grin, the protagonist launches a sneak attack, vowing to settle all their grudges at once. Xiaoyu furiously protests the sneak attack, but the officiator nonchalantly claims he already started the match. She fumes with righteous anger, convinced the entire academy is conspiring against her beloved Lingyan. Wu Lingyan skillfully parries a relentless series of powerful strikes from his opponent. The protagonist presses his advantage, moving with blinding speed to overwhelm Wu Lingyan. The informant monk shouts a desperate warning, realizing the protagonist has appeared behind Wu Lingyan. But Wu Lingyan has already vanished, reappearing above his foe for a surprise counterattack. With glowing eyes and a fist charged with golden energy, he unleashes a powerful strike. The protagonist smirks, mockingly complimenting his opponent's speed just before the blow lands. Wu Lingyan is suddenly blasted back, caught in a massive explosion of blue energy unleashed by his opponent. Wu Lingyan is sent flying, barely defending himself against the torrent of blue flames. The protagonist smirks, revealing he's figured out his opponent's style and plans to win with long-range attacks. Landing far away, Wu Lingyan recoils from the intense heat of the flames on his hand. He looks on with growing concern, realizing the true danger of his opponent's power. With a roar, the protagonist unleashes his full power, summoning two massive dragons made of pure blue flame. Wu Lingyan is forced back by the overwhelming heat, knowing he can't block the attack directly. From the crowd, the protagonist's companion cheers, urging him to push his opponent into a corner. Xiao Yu watches with a worried expression as the colossal flame dragons dominate the stage. She wonders if Wu Lingyan will finally be forced to reveal his hidden demonic techniques. Pushed to the very edge of the arena, Wu Lingyan realizes he has run out of room to retreat. The protagonist smirks, vowing to end the fight as he unleashes his twin dragons. The massive flame dragons roar as they bear down on the cornered Wu Lingyan. With no other choice, Wu Lingyan decides it's finally time to reveal his true power. His friends watch with anticipation, wondering what incredible technique he will use. He forms a hand sign, preparing to unleash what he calls an immortal technique. To everyone's surprise, he performs a simple chest exercise with immense spiritual power. The protagonist is enraged by the absurdity of the technique, which Wu Lingyan claims he invented himself. Impressed despite himself, the protagonist warns that he has plenty more tricks up his sleeve. Wu Lingyan effortlessly disperses the powerful blue flames with a simple command. The dissipated energy reforms into countless glowing lotuses, surrounding him in a beautiful but deadly trap. The protagonist smirks, confident that Wu Lingyan can't possibly handle the sheer density of his lotus attack. Undeterred, Wu Lingyan decides to counter with an even more powerful immortal technique. He plants his foot firmly, preparing to unleash his next bizarrely named move. Wu Lingyan performs a side-to-side jump, creating a flurry of afterimages that weave through the deadly lotuses. The protagonist's companion accuses him of stealing a secret technique, but the monk dismisses it as simple high-speed movement. Wu Lingyan's rapid movements create powerful air currents, disrupting the formation of the energy lotuses. The protagonist grits his teeth in frustration, realizing his opponent is using the airflow to neutralize his attack. Changing tactics, he channels his power, trapping Wu Lingyan within a field of pure fire energy. He then unleashes a new technique, encasing Wu Lingyan in a massive prison of fiery rock pillars. Murong questions how he can use an earth technique, while Xiao Yu senses something is off, detecting no actual earth energy. The informant monk excitedly identifies the move as a signature elemental switching technique, much to Xiao Yu's annoyance. The protagonist smirks, realizing he can exploit the five elements principle that the locals seem to ignore. The dean dismisses his official's concern, ordering him to simply record the impressive technique for later study. But the official is actually horrified by the exorbitant cost of the spirit rock crystals being used in the attack. The protagonist boasts internally that by understanding this world's rules, his techniques have become limitless. With a confident grin, he prepares to unleash the full power of his newly formed earth-based attack. Wu Lingyan is trapped as the protagonist's fire energy transforms into a devastating rock-piercing blast. The massive crystal prison begins to crumble, raining sharp debris down on the trapped Wu Lingyan. From the sidelines, Xiao Yu and the monk cry out in alarm, fearing for their friend's safety. The discipline official comically despairs over the destruction of his precious spirit stones, earning a glare from the dean. Murong, armed with a giant drumstick, declares she's intervening to save Wu Lingyan. Xiao Yu quickly grabs her, warning her not to add to his troubles. She confidently reassures Murong that such a simple technique is no threat to Wu Lingyan. The protagonist dusts his hands, smugly believing a local could never match the child of destiny. His confidence shatters as the ground beneath him begins to rumble violently. The entire rock prison construct cracks and glows, threatening to burst from an internal force. The audience panics at the sudden tremors, fearing the arena itself is collapsing. Xiao Yu, however, smirks with absolute certainty, knowing Wu Lingyan is truly invincible. With a massive burst of golden energy, the rock prison completely shatters from within. Wu Lingyan is revealed, effortlessly destroying the attack with another bizarre, immortal technique, the super high-speed bench press. The protagonist stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend how his ultimate technique was so easily shattered. Xiao Yu smugly explains that this is nothing compared to Wu Lingyan's daily training, leaving Murong speechless. Wu Lingyan casually dusts off his hands, complaining that the immense weight was still too light. His opponent's pride is shattered, refusing to accept that a mere local could humiliate him. Convinced of his destiny as the chosen one, he vows that he will not be defeated by a random nobody. He channels his power once more, combining elemental forces to create an even heavier attack. With a furious roar, he unleashes a devastating thunderslash, aiming to overwhelm his opponent. The discipline official sighs, noting that the protagonist's rage has completely clouded his judgment. He points out that his opponent has forgotten Wu Lingyan's true specialty, as Wu Lingyan prepares another immortal technique. Wu Lingyan effortlessly counters with a body rotation exercise, deflecting the massive energy blade with a simple spin. The deflected energy blade carves a destructive path across the arena floor. The protagonist stares in horror, realizing his prized mysterious ruler has been cracked. His eyes widen as he sees the reflection of Wu Lingyan's fist about to connect. A massive shockwave of golden energy erupts from Wu Lingyan's powerful counterpunch. The protagonist barely manages to block the final blow, stopping the fist just short of his face. Wu Lingyan stands over his kneeling opponent, calmly declaring his victory. In the crowd, several female students cheer wildly, completely captivated by Wu Lingen's power. The protagonist's companion fumes, furious that he lost to someone with no cultivation. Without another word, Wu Lingen turns and walks away, leaving his defeated rival in the dust. The protagonist screams in rage, unable to accept his humiliating defeat. Refusing to accept defeat, he calls upon a mysterious spectral elder named Dan Lao to lend him strength.